sometimes life just throws curveballs at you. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Almost a month ago I posted this video where I shared some of my current health struggles with you guys, and in that video I said that I was doing a PET scan, and I have done that and I have now gotten the results, so I kind of want to share that with you. So first of all, I will talk a bit about what a PET scan is and my experience doing the actual scan, and then I will move into what the doctor said about my PET scan. If you don't want to know about my experience with the PET scan, then here's the timestamp. From my research on what a PET scan is, it's basically like a CT X-ray, and you get injected and drink some contrast fluid that will accumulate where there is a high level of metabolism. So this is mainly used to seek out and track tumors, because tumors have a very high metabolism. But then there's also other parts of the body that naturally has a high metabolism, so that also shows up. But I did my PET scan, I want to say like 3 weeks ago or something, and it was a pretty easy procedure. I went with my mom and dad because Alex had work. We had to go to another hospital that is 1.5 hours away, because that's the closest they have like a PET scan machine. So we road tripped down there and we got to the hospital, checked in and everything, and then they called me in, and my mom and dad were in the waiting room and I was in like a small room. It had like a hospital bed, and I mean it was kind of like a hospital room but small, and it was adjacent to the X-ray like room lab thing. So beforehand I got this questionnaire in the mail that I brought with me. It just had questions about like if you've recently had an infection, pregnant, when your last period was, if you have any other pre-existing conditions, what medications you take, and just pretty general stuff like that. So I brought that with me and she looked through all my answers, and that was basically it for the questionnaire. Then she put an IV into my arm and injected the contrast fluid. You can always feel it going in when someone puts in an IV into your arm, but like the contrast fluid, I didn't really feel anything. And then she told me to just lay completely still on this bed for I think it was like 20 minutes or something, and I was not allowed any distractions, so I was not allowed to have my phone or anything like that. And I also got like a bottle of contrast fluid that I was supposed to drink. So she wrote down the times that I was supposed to drink a full glass of fluid. So I think I took 2 cups right when she injected the contrast fluid into my bloodstream, and then like 15 or 20 minutes later the schedule started, and then every 5 minutes I was supposed to get up and drink a cup of this fluid. And I mean it was like a liter, so it was quite a bit. It didn't really taste anything. I mean it didn't taste good, but it was basically just water with like this contrast fluid in it, and I don't know if it's just like the water there that tastes different to what it does at home, or if the contrast thing actually had any taste to it. When those 20 minutes had passed, I was allowed to go up and go to the bathroom and stuff like that, and I actually got out my noise cancelling headphones. Didn't listen to any music, just had them on because noises really bother me, so there was more of a distraction if I wasn't wearing them. So after about an hour after they injected this first contrast fluid, she told me that I had to go to the bathroom because the contrast fluid is like radioactive and it travels really fast to your kidneys. And then directly after that it was time to go to the X-ray machine. It was kind of just like a normal CT scan. And if you haven't done a CT scan, it's basically you lay on this bed that moves and it goes into a tube that is like the X-ray machine, and it moved back and forth, and sometimes it told me to like take a deep breath in, hold my breath, and then after I had scanned it told me to breathe again. They also connected like a tube to my IV and injected some other contrast fluid. I've had that contrast fluid a couple of times when I've had CT scans of my lungs, and that contrast fluid makes you feel really warm and it kind of feels like you've peed yourself. So that's a really strange sensation, but it doesn't hurt a bit uncomfortable, but it's not too bad. It's just a weird sensation, honestly. And I was just laying on this bed going back and forth for around 20 minutes, I think, and then they just checked so all the pictures were clear. They took out my IV and I was free to go. The whole process took about 1.5 to 2 hours. I didn't feel any side effects at all except from like the feeling warm, but otherwise I did not feel anything from the contrast fluid. They said, however, I was not allowed to hug small children like under the age of 18 for about 4 hours, like the radioactive, and I was kind of radioactive, I guess. But yeah, that was basically my PET scan experience. Moving on to my PET scan results. Today is Wednesday, the 10th of August. I had my follow-up meeting on Monday, the 8th of August, so 2 days ago. My dad went with me. Alex had work and mom wasn't feeling too well, so my dad went with me. When we got there, it turned out that it was an oncologist and not like the lung doctor that I've seen previously. If you don't know what an oncologist is, it's basically like a tumor doctor. So that was fun. And we sat down and talked to him, and he said that on this PET scan they could see that it lit up like right here where they think the tumor is, and it also lit up a bit, you can't really see, but down here in my lung, and that is where I've had some trouble with pleurisy, like the inflammation of the lung sac. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's something going on in my lung tumor wise. It could, but he said that it can also light up because of an inflammation, because if something is inflamed it has a higher metabolism rate, and that's what the PET scan picks up on. As for the thing in my chest here, he mentioned cancer a lot. Basically, they were almost certain that it was a tumor. They didn't know if it was cancerous or if it was benign, but they said that they thought it was a tumor. So they needed to do something about it, obviously. There was a couple different ways that things could go, but what he thought would happen is that I would have surgery to remove my thymus, and that they would also take a biopsy on what is in my lung. But he also mentioned that we might just do a biopsy of the thymus, and he mentioned a couple different alternatives, but he didn't really know what was gonna happen yet, because the day after, which is now yesterday, they had like a conference. A bunch of different doctors with different specialties met and talked about my case, and it was then they decided what to do moving forward. So he didn't know what was gonna happen on Monday, but he said that he would call me straight after this conference that they had yesterday, and he did. And here is where I am a little bit confused, because he said that they looked back at my scans from 2020, that I did like a CT lung scan, and I already knew that they had looked back on them, and previously they said to me that they could see that something was there, but it had grown now and is now much bigger. And he said that on Monday too. But when he called me yesterday, he said that it was the same size as it was in 2020. So it hadn't grown. I'm not really sure about that, but he said that it hadn't grown too much, and therefore they weren't as concerned, but they still like want to do something about it, obviously, since it showed up on the PET scan. Now what is gonna happen is that they're gonna do surgery on me, but they won't remove the entire thymus. They're gonna do like an explorative surgery, so they're gonna open me up and have a look inside, and also take a biopsy of the thymus and a biopsy of my lung. This is probably gonna happen within a week from now. He said that it's a really high priority since I am so young. That is basically what they're gonna do. He said that he's been an oncologist here for like 10 years or something, and he's seen 3 patients with this kind of tumor. It's not really like this is what we usually do with this, because there is no usually. It's all on situation basis. I have not gotten the surgery date yet. I have not talked to the surgeon yet, but that's gonna happen in a couple of days probably. What I think, this is, no one has told me this, but what I think might be the case is that they open me up and do these biopsies, and while I'm under, they analyze the biopsies to see if it is like malignant cells, and if it is, they take it out while I'm still under. That is something that is just like a theory of mine and not what any doctor has told me. I am a bit nervous. I'm not looking forward to surgery. I had a surgery a bit over a year ago to remove my appendix, and it sucked. and this is probably gonna have an even longer recovery time. So I'm not looking forward to that, but I mean, it's a necessary thing and I trust the doctors and what they are doing. It is scary to see an oncologist and hear him talk about cancer and malignant tumors and everything like that. It's not something I thought I would have to experience at 21, but sometimes life just throws curveballs at you. Everything's a bit up in the air right now. Nothing's set in stone except that they are doing a surgery on me. It's scary, but I'm glad things are happening. Not the update I hoped for, but it's not the worst update either. Thank you guys so much for your support and for your love. I read all your comments. I don't always have the energy to answer them, but I do try. Your guys' support means so much. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, and thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.